Stage one.
Thank you all for tuning in today. I'm pleased to announce that due to the continued responsible actions of the people of Idaho to slow the spread of coronavirus, we have met the criteria to enter into stage one of our safe, responsible approach to reopening Idaho's economy. Starting tomorrow, May 1st, the stay-home order will expire, and Idaho will enter into a new chapter of our fight with the coronavirus. However, Idahoans will still need to be vigilant to stay healthy as we continue to reopen our economy. Our staged approach is consistent with direction from President Trump, CDC, and our public health experts. Every step of the way, we have followed the President's guidance to slow the spread of coronavirus and responsibly open businesses back up so that we can give a level of certainty to consumers and employers. In fact, last week, Vice President Mike Pence specifically highlighted our Rebound Idaho plan as one consistent with President Trump's approach in opening up America again. A strong economic comeback starts with one thing: consumer and employee confidence. People want to feel safe returning to work and visiting businesses. They want to know everything possible is being done to ensure that they will not contract coronavirus when they leave their homes. Until we have vaccines and therapeutics for COVID-19, safety and prevention should be our highest priority. Stage one is the first of 4 stages we outlined for the reopening of Idaho's economy. Our stage one, Stay Healthy order, replaces the statewide stay-home order that has been in place since March 25th. Everyone must do their part to ensure we can progress to stage 2 by wearing face coverings in public places, washing their hands frequently, and following the other guidelines for all stages. During stage 1, 90% of businesses will be able to open their doors. To ensure consumer and employee confidence, we have laid out protocols for businesses to ensure physical distancing, sanitation, and other measures to follow in stage 1. It is available at reboundidaho.gov. Places of worship, daycares, and organized youth activities and day camps can open if they adhere to Idaho and CDC protocols. We will continue the 14-day self-quarantine for people entering Idaho to prevent an influx of out-of-state visitors who could be carrying the virus into our state. Vulnerable Idahoans should continue to stay at home if they can. Employers are encouraged to continue teleworking and return employees to work in phases. Gatherings of any size, both public and private, should be avoided. Minimize non-essential travel. Dine-in restaurants must remain closed, but pickup and delivery options will still be available and are encouraged. We are working in the next 2 weeks. Restaurant operators should develop plans to open for dine-in during stage 2. Indoor gyms, recreational facilities, and close contact services such as massage, hair and nail salons remain closed, but can make plans to reopen in stage 2 if they follow protocols. Visits to senior living facilities and facilities such as jails and prisons are prohibited. Bars, nightclubs, and large venues must remain closed at this time. I want to reiterate that we can only reopen our economy successfully if we can demonstrate a downward decline in severe cases and meet other criteria. It is imperative that individuals take personal responsibility by limiting their exposure to others and maintaining good hygiene. Meanwhile, we are focusing on expanding and targeting access to testing. We are improving contact tracing for all COVID-19 positive cases. We are working to ensure we have healthcare system capacity. I also want to share some important news about what we are doing to help Idaho small businesses as we continue to reopen our economy. We will be making $300 million available to Idaho small businesses in new Idaho Rebound grants. Cash grants of up to $10,000 will be available to small businesses. With this step, we will be able to support more than 30,000 of Idaho's smallest businesses. Many of these businesses are the backbone of their communities. No other state in the country is putting up a larger amount from the Coronavirus Relief Fund to help small businesses with cash support. Since this money is intended to help Idaho's small businesses, the Coronavirus Financial Advisory Committee will establish sideboards and tomorrow to ensure the grants are carefully targeted. Businesses will be eligible if they have not already received an SBA-backed payroll protection loan or received less than $10,000 in such a loan. Other eligibility criteria will be finalized by the committee and will be outlined at reboundidaho.gov next Tuesday at 9 a.m.